Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Kristen, and I'm the Director of Programs here at JustFaith Ministries, and I'm so glad that you've made the time to join us to talk about Just Faith and Just Faith Catholic. Before we begin, just a couple logistics. You will be muted for the entire call. We will unmute for the Q&A at the end. And also, you can send, if you'd like, you can also send the questions. If you have questions about the programs, you can also feel free to send those questions to Leela in the chat box if you prefer. I think that is it for logistics, and I would like to open us with a word of prayer. This prayer is actually a blessing that was written by Bishop Woody White. Let us pray. And now may the Lord torment you. May the Lord keep before you the faces of the hungry, the lonely, the rejected, and the despised. May the Lord afflict you with pain for the hurt, the wounded, the oppressed, the abused, the victims of violence. May God grace you with agony, a burning thirst for justice and righteousness. May the Lord give you courage and strength and compassion to make ours a better world, to make your community a better community, to make your church a better church. And may you do your best to make it so. And after you have done your best, may the Lord grant you peace. Amen. So just a little overview about who we are, if we have any new folks to Just Faith Ministries. Just Faith is, here at Just Faith Ministries, we seek to provide participants with this space to create community and also to grow spiritually, and we equip people to seek justice. And of course, you can find more on our website. And just to list a few of the programs that we have, you can see them here on this next slide. We'll be talking about the Just Faith series today. So a little bit about this program as a whole. It's a 3-part series, and each of the programs has 8 sessions, and there's 2 versions. There's the Just Faith version, which is the ecumenical version, and there's also the version that is seen through the lens of Catholic social teaching. Both of them are very similar, but they do have different books, and so I'll go into some of those nuances here in just a few minutes. Each of these programs are 8 sessions each. They can be, you can take just one of the programs, or you can go on to programs 2 and 3 as well, and they are written to be taken in order. Each of these programs were developed with the support of our partner, Bread for the World, and on the Catholic version of this program, we collaborated with a representative from the CCHD office in making this program. So I'm going to go into a little bit about each of these 3 programs. You can see their titles here. Faith and Poverty, A Biblical Response is the theological foundation for engaging in helping to alleviate poverty in your local community. So this program gives a theological foundation. Program 2, Faith and Poverty, A Solidarity Response. It explores some of the common obstacles that people in poverty often face when seeking to escape poverty. And then Program 3, Faith and Poverty, A Justice Response, looks at the systems and structures that trap people in poverty. So you can see here I listed some of the topics that are covered in the biblical response. In the Catholic version, the Catholic social teaching is heavily emphasized, even more so than the previous version of this series. So that's really important. But you'll see that this program intends to give folks, show folks the posture of how that we engage with folks in the local community who are experiencing poverty, so that we can do that in a way that involves humility and is in line with our theological principles, and also is hopefully effective. You'll see too that it contains an immersion experience and an opportunity to bring in a guest speaker from the local community in this program, as in each of these 3 programs. And the intention with that is to help folks to be able to connect to the justice work and the work of alleviating poverty that is already happening in their local community. Because if they have those networks and those resources, they're much more likely to get plugged in. This program also has a retreat, and it is between sessions 2 and 3 in this program. We realize that the retreats have, people have not always, because of timing issues, done all of the retreats. So we decided to just have a retreat just in this program instead of in each of our 3 programs. So this is the only retreat in the series. All right, and then I'll move on to Faith and Poverty, a Solidarity Response. You can see the topics here. Again, this program really seeks to highlight some of the barriers that people in poverty often face while trying to escape poverty. We get into, you'll see that, the dignity of work, how much minimum wage, and how much it really takes to make ends meet in our modern world. We get into social safety net and public benefits. We get into the cliff effect, which is about how the difficulties that people often face when they're trying to get off of public benefits and make it on their own without those. We look at the effects of poverty on health, and how health, and vice versa, and how health often sends people into poverty. We also look at trauma and addiction and correlation with poverty, and the incredible difficulties that people in poverty face when trying to deal with these things. A huge emphasis throughout is housing, and one of the reasons that we emphasize this is because this is a really great way for people to get involved. There's so many ways in their local communities. There's so many ways to contribute to ensuring that people have a safe place to lay their heads at night. And then in the end, we do an interactive activity on grassroots organizing, so that people feel equipped to really make a difference in a way that's effective, and how to be able to mobilize other people in their church or parish or in the community. And again, in this program, like the other 3, contains an immersion in the local community and a guest speaker. So Faith and Poverty, a Justice Response. Again, this is about the systemic issues that keep people in poverty. We especially highlight, given what's going on in our world today and renewed interest in this important matter, we especially highlight the systems and structures which have a disproportionate and unjust effect on communities of color. So we begin with why it's important to talk about systemic issues, because we know that can be really difficult for people to move from charity into conversations about justice. We talk about systemic racism, mass incarceration, poverty and immigration, the obstacles that immigrants often face because of our legal system. That we talk about the wealth gap and the racial wealth gap as well. We talk about how the environment, climate change, air pollution affects poverty. And we talk about the teaching, the important theological teaching of the preferential option for the poor. And we also do some training on how to get involved in local advocacy, how to get involved in our city councils and county councils so that we can make sustainable change. Again, in this program also contains an opportunity for immersion and a guest speaker. And with all of these things, and I think Lila's going to talk about this a little bit too, we have virtual adaptations, and people have been, we switched over to having virtual opportunities for folks to facilitate these sessions over Zoom or other methods of video conferencing. And it's been really successful. And so even for the immersion experience, we have alternatives, and we have the tips and tools that you need in order to make those adjustments. You can see that the book list here, you'll see the Catholic version is slightly different from the ecumenical version. You'll see some titles that are the same as in the old programs, if you're familiar with that. You'll also see in this in the Catholic version, there's a spiritual practices booklet on Catholic social teaching that our executive director, Susie Tierney, wrote for us, and it really does a great job of incorporating all the things that we're learning throughout all the 3 programs. into this Catholic theological framework. And then the same is true also for Just Faith. It's also very heavy on the spirituality and the theological background foundation. The Very Good Gospel is the book that we use as that theological component throughout all three programs. Some changes. You'll notice that this program in subject matter is a bit different from the previous version, and so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to hold this meeting today. Is we have decided to emphasize local poverty and how to get involved in this and get involved in helping to alleviate poverty in the local community. Because Just Faith is our, quote unquote signature program, is often the introductory point to our the rest of our programs and our materials. We thought that emphasizing poverty and local engagement was a really easy way for people to get involved. There's so many opportunities for people to use the gifts and skills that they bring to the table. And also you'll notice that some of the subjects that were in the original, last year's version of Just Faith and Just Faith Catholic, those are covered in our topical programs. And so you can, if that's an interest, if you want to dive deep into nonviolence, or we have an upcoming series on eco-justice, you can sign up for our topical programs. But we have now switched to a heavy emphasis on engaging in alleviating local poverty in our communities. There's also a slight change in books. We have kept some of them, including Just Mercy and Evicted, that were also in the old program. There's updated resources that are very current. The retreat is also designed for flexibility, as it says here, so that people can do that virtually, and they can also, if folks in their community are unable to dedicate an entire day to engaging in the retreat, there is a shortened version, so that can accommodate more people's schedules. There's also a heavier, as I mentioned, a heavier theological and spiritual component in these, and I hope that you will find that meaningful. And again, there are the virtual options. Just want to check on my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. I think that is it. And so now I'll turn this over to my colleague, Leela Oakley, to tell you a little bit more about the logistics.
Wonderful. It is great to be here with you all today. As Kristen said, my name is Leela Oakley, and I'm the Outreach and Engagement Associate for JustFaith Ministries. And my primary role with the organization is to support facilitators and small groups as they utilize our programs across the country. So what I'm going to dive into here is just some more logistical information, but I want to let you know that if you need any support following this meeting to figure out your next steps, I'm happy to help in that process. So I wanted to give you an overview of the sessions, and some of this information, for those of you who are familiar with our programs, you will already know this, but I didn't want to leave it out. So as Kristen has mentioned multiple times, our programs are available for both virtual and in-person gatherings. That includes the Just Faith and Just Faith Catholic programs. The programs are designed as 8 sessions, with the retreat in the first of the 3 parts in the series, as well as an immersion experience. So for the first part of the series, that would be 10 total gathering times. And then for the second and third part of the series, that would be 9 gathering times. It is designed for a small group of 8 to 15 folks if you're in person, or we recommend 8 to 12 if you're meeting virtually. And the program is 2.5 hours in length. However, if you are meeting virtually, there are a lot of folks who are shortening the length of the program time to 2 hours in order to make it a more reasonable amount of time to spend on Zoom, and that can be done with a few tweaks here or there. And finally, weekly assignments. So between each session, there is reading to be done. Sometimes there's videos, there's spiritual practices that are to be done out of session time, which helps to enrich the time spent together. There we go. Session outline. So this is a general outline of what a given session will look like. And I just wanted to show this to you all to give you a big picture. Every session is going to be different. It's going to cover different content, obviously, but most of our sessions begin and end with prayer. There's two different big chunks of time dedicated to conversation and dialogue, usually around the reading and maybe a video or an article. There's time for a break and announcements as well. Now, how to get started. So all of our programs at JustFaith Ministries, you can register through our website. So you go to justfaith.org, you find the program page for the program you're interested, for example, JustFaith or JustFaith Catholic, and you register online. The program individually costs $175 with an additional cost for books. So that $175 is currently the registration fee for the entire group, and the individual cost of books is usually around $40. And we recommend and encourage folks to order their books through us. However, that is not a requirement. The next step for getting started is really identifying the best gathering format. So for most of our groups across the country, online is really the only feasible option right now. So identifying that format and then identifying facilitators. So the 2 or 3 individuals who are going to take on the role of facilitating the program, gathering participants, organizing the material, and then leading the sessions. As I mentioned at the beginning, one of my primary roles is to support facilitators. So if you find yourself in that role, I'm here to help you. And then the last thing to do before you get started is really setting a start date and beginning the recruitment process, which we have a lot of different marketing materials to help in that process. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we are going to open up for Q&A. So here in just a moment, I'll allow you all to unmute yourself if you'd prefer to ask your questions over through voice, or if you'd rather send it over the chat, you can do that in the toolbar. So you are now able to unmute yourself.
So I am familiar with the program. I'm with the JustFaith Charlotte group now, as we are kind of a new group. So understanding the differences is what, from the old, I probably went through it maybe 5 years ago and now, and the whole format looks very different to me. So in trying to understand the differences, you said, I think, it's focusing more, it's trying to focus more, get people to focus more on the local. Is that?
Yes. So one big difference as well. So if you were in the program about 5 years ago, you may have taken the 24-week program, yes, which is still an option. It's just, there's just three separate programs that all kind of tie together. There's a line that
much better.
So
yeah.
Yes. And so that is formatted too, so that you can try out the first program, and then if you like it, you can continue on. It's also less of a commitment for folks at the beginning. So that's one really big difference.
Yeah.
Another big difference is, like you said, it does focus on the local, but at the same time, this program does apply to poverty, like national poverty. Yes.
Yeah.
And gets at some issues that we are facing as a nation right now, such as mass incarceration, racism, also trauma and addiction right now during COVID, especially. So while it does focus on the local, and we think that that's where most participants will likely find themselves engaging in action. If folks are interested in national poverty and working on advocacy on a national scale, this will absolutely be relevant to them as well. But the third difference too is that the old program was kind of a hodgepodge of different issues, and we still cover many of those issues in this. But I would say that there's more of a focus on poverty on this one. So it doesn't it doesn't get in so heavily to, I guess that the thread that runs throughout is very obviously alleviating poverty and standing in solidarity with folks experiencing poverty. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
But overall, I will say though, overall, some things that have not changed are that the structure is very similar. Some of the readings will be similar. I think the feel and the atmosphere will be
the same.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Really like the books that I've read in the past, really, a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Hi, you all. So I'm Mary Becker, and in California. And so how are you suggesting people do the immersion experiences while we're still, distancing?
Sure. Leela, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Mary. So in light of COVID and social distancing, a typical immersion experience is not going to be able to happen. And so what Kristen's done is she's offered for every program in the series and for all of our programs across the board, a few virtual alternatives. And some of those alternatives include documentaries with the potential for conversation and question, inviting a second guest speaker, or looking for another virtual webinar to participate in. While that doesn't have the intent of the immersion experience is to get the group into the community, engage with people doing the work of justice in your community, and that's really hard to do virtually. We hope that these alternatives will at least fill some of that gap. And then what we're recommending, Mary, is that if a group is willing and able to make a commitment to gather together for a more traditional immersion experience once that is a safe thing to do. So whether that be 6 months from now, a year from now, hopefully not a year and a half from now, whenever that is, it could be a good way for the group to remain connected with the promise of reconnecting and then participating in a more full immersion experience.
Thanks.
Yeah, contrary to what my screen name says, this is Al. I'm Janet's computer. But here in East Lansing, Michigan, I went through Just Faith probably 10 years ago and then facilitated 8 years ago. Just a real practical question. Is the 175, is that for all 3 of the 8-week sessions, or is that just one 8-week? And the $40 per books, again, is that for each 8-week session, or?
So the 175 is if you were to purchase just one of the 8-week sessions. So if you decide to purchase the first part of the series, that's 175. There is a bundling discount if you purchase all 3 together. And Kristen, please help me out. I'm blanking whether it's, I think it's $15 off of each individual program. And so if you choose to purchase, again, 25, thank you. I knew I was going in my head between 15 and 25. So if you were to know you want all 3 of them, you could purchase them at the same time and get that discount. And then the book fee of the estimated $40 book fee is per program. So in each program, there's a few books that end up being around $40. So if someone's going to participate in all 3, then they could estimate around $120.
Okay, great. I was on staff when I went through it, and now I just retired and I'm helping out as a volunteer. So I just want to let the parish know what the cost will be. Thank you.
And I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of fill in something that we haven't clearly identified, which is that currently in our current registration model with the 175 registration fee, that within an organization like your church or parish, if you purchase the program, you have access to it for an entire year. And that access allows you to run as many small groups as you're able to form within that year. I will add a little asterisk as I say that, which is that we are looking to develop a different registration model that allows for individual registration in the coming year. And so our process and model will be changing, but not in the next little bit. So that's the current model. So again, if your church wants to run multiple small groups, it would just be that one fee to cover all of them.
Hello, folks. This is Susie, and I just wanted to chime in and add a little bit of kudos and information on what Kristen shared with you in terms of the overview of the program. What I will say that Kristen's done a really good job of doing with the Just Faith and Just Faith Catholic is, being more focused. And part of it was because we're developing topical programs that are really addressing these more specific issues. And so to focus in on poverty, which has been the heart of really the Just Faith program, and to really focus in on those things that are intersecting with poverty, but not get too far into some of the other topics. So it was a really good call. And even though, the global piece is massive, certainly. What we found in our racial justice series, as Kristen will tell you, is that, even in that series, we had to focus on the African-American experience, because when we started thinking about, racism, how do you possibly do a program series on all the different racism that's experienced by all different communities of color? And so we're trying to be, by merit of that, it leaves something out, and we hate to leave things out, but we also have to realize our own capacity, and that is what we're doing. We want to focus in so that what we're doing it really well, and Kristen's doing a great job of that. So.
I do like what I've seen of the new programs. I do remember from 10 years ago, it was a smattering of just a lot of different things. And nothing too far in depth. So, and I do like some of the books that have been added too. A couple of them I've already read, and they're excellent. So, thank you.
Oh, that's so good to hear. And I hope you'll find too that the topics that had been covered in the previous version of this program, you can certainly still engage with those too, just on a deeper level through our other programs, our other topical programs.
So I have a question again, and this is about the retreats. Kind of what do those look like? Can you just sort of walk me through what that is virtually? I know
there's always one troublemaker on every call. How you doing, Mary?
Good.
I'm gonna let Leah take that.
Great. So Mary, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to back up a few steps, and then I'll work my way there. So when March hit, and the world was all in a place of quarantining and social distancing, we realized that there are people who want to use our programs and are having to do that virtually. And so we had to move from being an organization where almost all of our programs were being used in small groups in person to meeting virtually. And so what we did as a staff is we created a support document that goes with every program that outlines general tips for facilitating virtually, and then it goes into specific suggestions for that individual program. So for example, if there is a video that's played in session 2 of Just Faith Phase 1, Session 2, then we've offered 3 different ways that you can show that video or handle sharing that video in a virtual small group. So we've done that for every program. Our ultimate goal is for every program that exists in our organization that there will be a virtual equivalent. So instead of having just that support document, there would actually be, Mary, if you go to purchase Just Faith, the first part of the series, that you would be able to either get a virtual version or an in-person version that's fully rewritten and reworked. We are in the process of working on that, but we, just because of staff capacity, have been making slow progress in that and doing our best. So currently for the Just Faith program and Just Faith Catholic programs, we just have that support document. And now to get to your question, for the, ultimately we'll love in that virtual version to have a shortened, condensed 3-hour virtual retreat written for our facilitators. But right now what we have are a few suggestions about how to handle the retreat virtually. The first is to is to use the full day retreat over the course of 2 different meetings. So maybe on a Friday and a Saturday, or a Saturday and a Sunday. So you split the content to make it more manageable for a virtual gathering. So you're not on here for 7 hours peeling your eyes open. The second option is to do the retreat and condense it and shorten the retreat to a more manageable amount of time, to about maybe 3 hours. And what we recommend for facilitators who are choosing that is to look through the full retreat and identify the activities that they think will be most relevant and important for their group. So in our retreats, there's some getting to know you activities. So if you have a group of folks who don't know each other, then I would recommend including at least one of those. Then there's some more introspective work and sharing that's done, and kind of picking and choosing from there to then total up to about 3 hours. And the last note I'll make, and again, this is on that document that you would receive as a facilitator, is that you can ask your participants to do some prep work for the retreat. So traditionally in an all-day in-person retreat, there'll be an activity where you have 30 minutes to spend time in reflection and journaling and personal reflection, and then you'd have an hour spent sharing as a group. And that reflection time can be done ahead of time by participants and facilitators, so that way the time together is spent just in dialogue and sharing. I know that was a little more than you asked, but I felt like it's important to give the full picture.
So I have another question if somebody else doesn't yet. Kind of what is the way that groups would form if they weren't part of a parish or church community? Like, do you have many groups that do that, and kind of what are some tips and ways that can happen?
Absolutely. I'll jump in and answer, and then Kristen and Susie, please add to it. The sort of an unintended consequence of moving to these virtual options for our programs is that we have a lot of groups that are forming in big cities with people from all over the city that would never be able to meet at a location in person weekly. So it removes the barrier of having to be within a short driving distance from one another. So it does allow for groups across big cities to meet together, and even across the country. So we have people who are starting small groups that are not connected to a church or a parish, or maybe even if they are, that they're sending out the invite to friends, to family, to colleagues from across the country. And so you really get to expand your reach, because all the individual participants have to do is be able to, get online. And so we're really inviting folks to, as you are indicating in your question, Mary, to expand who they're considering as potential participants. And different ways to do that, what we know is that in promoting, the most effective strategy is personal connection and a personal ask. And so if you are looking for a larger, to widen your potential participants, really considering what connections do you have beyond your immediate church circle, and then utilizing things like social media, or if there is some sort of general organizing hub in your area that does advertisements about upcoming events, seeing if they would post an announcement, and really kind of getting creative about different communication tools within your target audience. Anything you all want to add, Susie or Kristen?
I guess just on a personal level, I've found that in my experience recently that there's a possibility for kind of a dual purpose to learn about programs, and then also just to provide support for the people that you know and love and care about, who might not even be in your area. And so some of my friends have talked about, they were all across the nation, have talked about getting together to maybe do a program. And again, it's a way to learn, and to educate ourselves about an issue we care about, but then also to care for one another in a time when we're so isolated.
The only thing that I would add is just a statement about, from a much higher level strategic standpoint, it's something that we're actively working on. and we'll be working on in 2021, the ability to make it functionally easier for those connections to a group to happen.
And I'll take this time to point out the fact that we have newly updated promotion kits. So if you spend any time on our website, you might see on the program page, there's a place where you can download a promotion kit, and our marketing director has spent a ton of time making those accessible and effective. And in there, you'll find things like a program booklet that is great for advertising, newspaper announcements, bulletin announcements, social media posts, even scripted emails to send to friends. And so you do not have to register to access that material. You can do that through our website, and it's a great place to get some good ideas.
I have a question. I did Just Faith probably 10 or 15 years ago. It's been a long time, and I believe it was the 24-week one. And after that, we had 2 shorter versions of it. And I think we did one, it was on prison reform, and the other one, maybe God's creation. And in our group, and this was before COVID, I know they were very interested in the climate change and that. But so do you still have those programs where it's specifically related to a particular issue, or is it now just all incorporated into the 3 programs that you have?
I can answer that one. We have a lot of different separate programs that are each 8 weeks, and another one is actually 2 of them are series like this one. And so, some of them you can find them on our website. If you go to our main page and click on programs, you can find a whole list of them.
Okay.
But some of them include racism. We have a new one coming out on eco-justice, nonviolence, advocacy and engagement. And all of those are very topical. And again, they're each 8 weeks.
Okay. And there's a description of each then?
Yes.
Like under eco-justice? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just sent a list of the programs in the chat. That's just a list of the various programs we offer, which include the topical programs. You will not see the eco-justice program in there because it's currently being developed, but that will be the first in that series will be released this fall.
I'll say that I'm from Charlotte, and I can't remember if I said that or not, but I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are trying to start a Just Faith Charlotte, and so it's kind of like what you were talking about before, making a bigger group, and we'll see how it goes. We're excited about it.
Well, that's so great to hear, Sharon. Thank you.
Well, we are still, the bulk of our audience is in churches and congregations. I can tell you that with our racial justice series, we have a significant number of what I would call community-based groups, like that Just Faith Charlotte, Just Faith Phoenix, Just Faith Denver, Just Faith whatever. And that just is exciting to us because it tells us that there's interest beyond, that one can certainly offer the program in their individual congregation or parish, but one could also be part of a wider regional or even a national group. And so the potential there and the possibilities are just fun for us to think about and move into, which we'll be doing in 2021.
Yeah, I'll say too, I came out of Just Faith in Greenville, South Carolina, and that's how I first engaged with Just Faith. So we're kind of neighbors, sort of. And they've just done some it's been really cool to see some of the things that they've done just through different community groups. They have a couple different churches, but it seems like a lot of community groups, and they've been able to make a real difference in the city. And so hopefully you'll see the same thing in Charlotte.
We've been communicating with them.
Oh, good. That's
with
great.
Greenville. Yeah.
We have some mutual friends then.
So I'm wondering about connections with other organizations, and what keeps popping into my mind is the Poor People's Campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when I saw the march that they did, 2 months or so ago, and like Kentuckians for the Commonwealth was in it as a piece, and it just both for immersion experiences as well as for having ties. Is any of that happening now, or if so, how?
Yes, I mean, that's fantastic. We have some of we've used some of their resources in several of our programs. I can't tell you, I mean, maybe Susie and Leela, but I haven't seen lately I don't know of examples of folks who are engaging with them other than using the resources from them that are included in the programs. But that's a great idea for an immersion experience to add to the list for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, our ultimate hope at the end of the day is that, the graduates of our programs, it's all about the impact in communities. So that's another reason why we are excited about, regional groups happening, and people, literally moving out of our programs and being able to do that transformative work in communities. And so, it depends on the program, but some of the organizations, like in the Catholic version, Mary, I can say that there's a sort of directional to connect with Catholic Relief Services and Catholic Campaign for Human Development and Catholic Charities USA and some of those things. In the ecumenical program, it might be Bread for the World. It's the Poor People's Campaign, and it's so we naturally bring in organizations that whatever the issue we're working on are, but it's hard to name them right now. Just
yeah, so we do. We have and in each program, in each session, actually, there's an action piece at the end. Where participants discern how they will act, and sometimes there's a suggestion that the facilitator gives of an organization that they might connect with, and also the immersion experience, and tends to connect people with those local organizations as well.
Well, I know our group in East Lansing, we ran that. Actually, we started that 30-week Just Faith program like 10 years ago, and it was nice when it went down to 24. But after about 4 or 5 years of running Just Faith, all those graduates banded together, and then we formed like an East Lansing group that really affiliated with the network group. And so we meet monthly still in affiliation with, support and help from network to try to be politically active, primarily on health issues, immigration, voter rights, and I guess those are the three main issues. But so a lot of those people went through Just Faith 10 years ago, still meet once a month in the parish and try to do things to influence change in a variety of ways, primarily nationally, but more recently on a statewide level and local too. So it shows some of the potential.
Oh, that's so great to hear. That's really encouraging. I mean, that's the main goal.
Yes.
I did want to let you all know I will send a follow-up email to this meeting with the slides from today. So that way, if you want to review those or share them, we've also recorded this meeting, and so I will edit it and add it to our YouTube channel. So JustFaith Ministries YouTube channel, there is a playlist that will be the second video in the playlist, but we're going to continue to have these information meetings for all of our programs, and they'll all be added there. So if you have a friend or someone you know who's interested in learning more but wasn't able to attend today, you can feel free to pass along the information and the video to them.
How do you get to the YouTube channel?
Yeah, great question, Mary. So if you just go to YouTube and then you type in Just Faith Ministries, you will see our logo, and it'll say JustFaith Ministries, and you'll click on that channel, or our channel, JustFaith Ministries, and then under our channel, you'll see kind of a feed of videos, but up at the top, there's a banner, and one of the categories in that banner, it says playlist, and if you click on playlist, under playlist, you'll see a variety of different things. For example, our Acting for Justice While Sheltering in Place series, which is a webinar or a community gathering series we've been doing for the last few months. There are all the videos there. There's a Zoom training playlist. There's a variety of different playlists, but one of them will be program information meetings, and this will be under that. And it looks like Megan just sent a direct link in the chat.
Oh, good. So then all the speakers that you've had, all since I can't remember when, are on the JustFaith YouTube channel. That's how you access them.
Yes, from the Acting for Justice series, yes, all of those are there except for our last week's, because I haven't had the time to edit it yet, but it will be soon.
Okay, thank you. That was my question too.
And just so you all know, we have an event, an Acting for Justice event tonight if you'd like to join us. It's Sister Simone Campbell, so we're excited to have her on.
Yeah, just to affirm, she's great, and we did invite her to our parish, and she spoke there, and we have doing the virtual town hall meeting with her on the 29th, so.
Oh,
With
that's
network,
awesome.
not just her.
I'm going to add my email to the chat. It's just my first name at justfaith.org. But if any of you get off the call and still have a question or two that comes to mind, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Any other last minute questions? Okay. Well, thank you for joining. Yes, Mary.
No, thank you for doing
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to do this. And as I said, we'll be doing, Kristen and I will be holding these information meetings every few weeks. And so just keep an eye out, and Just News is where we'll be updating those events. And then we will be adding them to our event page on our website. So there's a page on our website that outlines upcoming events. You can keep an eye there as well. Kristen, any final words, or are we?
I just want to
Good
say
go.
thank you, because I know that you all are here because you care a lot about justice and faith formation, and I'm just really grateful that you took the time to be here with us, and just best of luck as you continue on with that passion, especially during this tricky time. So hang strong and know that we are in solidarity.